and welcome to this very
Oh, there
special
you go.
edition of the Irish Wrestling Podcast. My name is Mark O'Brien, even. I'm in association with BodySlam.net. I am joined today by somebody incredibly special. My guest today is a man who's wrestled all across the world, from thriving across the Australian and global independent scenes across the 2000s and 2010s,
Mm.
to lighting up the Noah Tag Team division alongside his tag team partner Shane
Oh,
Hayes
thank you.
in the 2010s again, then later joining WWE and being part of the huge black and
Yeah.
gold thriving scene and revival of tag team wrestling globally, all the way back to today. He's back in Japan working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm joined by the one and the only Mr. Mikey Nicholls. Mikey, sir, how are you doing today?
Yeah. I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Yeah, thanks very much
That's good.
for taking the time. Yeah, I know this is taking a while to come together,
Of
but I
course.
really do appreciate it.
I know.
Yeah, no, listen.
No, I'm
So
glad. Yeah, I'm sorry it took so long. Shit.
don't worry. Listen, yeah, things happen, life happens, everything gets in the way. Um, you're based out in Perth, Australia, so I hope you were enjoying seeing the Western Force lose to the Lions in the rugby at the weekend.
I don't know what those words mean, but yep, I was.
Sure. Rugby, no worries. Rugby union. Okay, good man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just.
No worries.
Yeah, I got
No,
you. Don't worry.
don't worry. Good man. Okay. So yeah, we'll crack on. So, part of you had an incredibly interesting and intriguing journey about post the last like 20 years across the wrestling space. But I suppose
Yeah.
your titles and your tours only tell kind of part of that story. You're a founding member of TMDK, one of the most lasting and beloved factions of wrestling of the last 20 years. And it's a
All
group
right.
that's
Who would
survived many
Who would have
different
thought?
iterations across a number of
Yeah.
different countries, a number of different name changes. I suppose people could say like TMDK and yourself, you've bled in silence at certain points over in Japan, be it prior to your WWE arrival. Then you've kind of battled within the WWE environment, again within
All right.
the mighty TM61, within the noise of WWE, thriving there. Now today, you're not just standing, but you are thriving yet again within that umbrella for a group that you've yourself have established. So how are you doing today, so my friend?
I'm good. It's the longest I've been in 20 odd years, 24 years since that. Longest I've been not wrestling.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's happened with Japan, but yeah, I haven't been there since December. So I've wrestled a bit here in
Mm.
Perth, but it's the longest I've gone without consistent kind of full time wrestling in 20 odd years. So I don't really know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
But I do have two little girls that keep me more than busy, so it's not all bad. But yeah, it's a strange time, but it's all good. I mean, like,
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, like, there's obviously a huge amount going on with New Japan currently as well. Is there any specific reason? Has anything been articulated to you from kind of New Japan management why they're bringing in less people from overseas? Obviously, there's going to be additional costs for those living in obviously Australia or the States as well. And I suppose there's kind of budgetary constraints. Has anything been communicated to you to that effect?
yeah, it's I never like I it's no one's really said anything to me. It's kind of just how it always has been. Sort of, you just wait and then you get a call and then it's like, oh, you're leaving in 3 days and you're going for
Yeah,
5 weeks and whatnot. But like I said, I'm trying to make the most of it while I'm home. So like I
yeah.
figure, I mean, I guess I've got to work there eventually. So
Yeah, no, but I mean, like when we've got two young children, having this time, you'll probably look back in years to come, you'll be very, very grateful this period now, the 6 months or whatever it is they've had to have spent the
yeah,
time at home. So, yeah, no, I've no doubt huge things are on the horizon to that effect, though. But like
yeah,
before we kind of chatted about your time in New Japan, a lot of the fans
yeah.
in this part of the world will be most familiar with your work. I know your work from prior and know, and I was a huge fan of you and
Oh,
Shane
thank
working
you.
within the GHC tag team champions. Most fans in this part of the world be most familiar with your work within WWE as your package between
Yeah,
TM61 and the mighty. First of all, like as a young Australian boy, kind of again on the periphery of the wrestling sphere, like everything in wrestling in the last 30, 40 years has been American centric and
mm.
focused. How big of an achievement or a goal rather was it to make it to WWE for you on your outset?
Well, I mean, well, especially coming from Perth as well, because it's
Yeah.
like nothing, and it takes 3 hours, 4 hours on a plane to get anywhere. So, like, even just the idea of wrestling outside of Australia or even outside WA at the point at when I started was just out of control. And then, I just kind of always knew what I wanted to do, and I think I'm just stubborn and I was never going to not do it. So it never occurred to me that I wasn't going to get to as far as like, WWE and everything like that. And like, but looking at it from when I started when I was 16 and then, when I actually got to WWE and stuff, and you don't really uh, stop long enough to like take a look back and like figure out how you got here. But like, I'm pretty proud of the way that we came through and how we started from nothing and, and then I just decided one day, I'm like, yeah, maybe a wrestler. And then, you do what you have to do for 20 odd years and then you get there, you know. So,
That's
but yeah, it's just great. It's like, even looking back, because there's no wrestling at all. So like, we kind of had to, we started training in a kickboxing ring, and then like, and we go from that, and one thing leads to another. Now you see the company, like there's a couple of companies in Perth now. There's like, I think there's 2 or 3 companies running around now, and like some, especially the ones that EPW does, like the quality of the shows and like production and even everything like that. Just like, I look back on how it was 20 years ago, and I was like, oh boy, lucky they weren't watching us then. But no,
us.
yeah, it's pretty, yeah, it's pretty proud. I'm pretty proud to think that that played somewhat of a little part in starting, whatever there is in Perth, and helping other people, become wrestlers and do this crazy thing.
Yeah, and I think it's not even just Perth wrestlers or Western Australian wrestlers. You look at like those who are kind of thriving in the WWE and beyond now. Like you've had a huge part to play in the kind of trailblazing that path. Like I'm from a small part of the world called Ireland. We've got people of your generation, like Finn Balor and whatnot. They've at the
Yeah, I
same
know.
time as you said it in their journey, and people of my age and kind of my generation now. You got Jordan Devlin, JD McDonough, and whatnot. Lyra Valkyria, Aoife Valkyrie. They're thriving across WWE. So like,
Yeah,
it takes 1 or 2 people like yourself, like a Finn Balor, to kind of light the fuse, and people kind of tend to follow your path at the back of that. Then, but I suppose
yeah.
there's one additional cool thing that you did by achieving that goal and lighting that path and blazing it as such. You
Go.
went to WWE under a banner on not a gimmick, but a moniker that you made yourself, the TMDK, the Mighty O'Neill. You went to
Yeah,
WWE as TM61. You didn't get repackaged
yeah,
as the Bushwhackers, or like later your colleague
yeah,
Shane. He did a very very brief like Crocodile Dundee thing. You went in as yourself. You're taken seriously. You're
yeah,
brought in as the hottest tag team in the world. You're thrown right into the deep
yeah.
end. How fulfilling was that to be brought into that WWE machine as something you created?
I mean, it was cool. It was even just when we had the tryout, like a tryout. I think they never told us, but essentially had the job before we did the tryout, which we realized halfway through the tryout when they separated. But then it was like, just knowing that you were kind of brought there to not go through the motions, but like, I don't know, the idea that someone, the company that you've watched since you were 5 years old, would actually know your name,
Yeah.
let alone give you a job and stuff like that. So like, it's kind of surreal. But then, like, the way we came in, it was because everyone had before us had sort of big, they'd run some vignettes and stuff before they, and then like the night before, when we were supposed to rest it, like, oh yeah, the arrested now. Well, shit, okay. Like trying to put gear together, we trying to know, like whatever the night before. So it was cool. The fact that it all came out so quickly, I think it was even, you didn't have enough time to get nervous or anything.
Yeah.
It's all happening.
Did anybody ever explain to you, because it was never really explained to us on screen, like what 61 stood for in TM61?
Wow, funny story. Me and Shane had to get some gear, list random, whatever gear, and the calling code for Australia is plus 61.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So if you saw on the back of our trunk, it said plus 61. It
Okay.
didn't say,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we said that, and then for some, I don't know, and then for some reason they combined names and they just put in their little shaker bottle and the most ridiculous name they can find. But that's where it all came from. And we were like, do you like? They asked us if we own the TMDK, and I'm like, I don't know, do you want to just do that? That's like, it's kind of how we like, I don't know. I don't know whether it's how we've been successful or just like naive. Me and Shane just kind of like fluff, end up fluff around and end up, not really pretty much thought and politics, whatever you do, trying to be,
Yeah.
professional, well, we're professional enough, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't put too much thought into it. And so it probably didn't work out the best for us on that situation.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it worked out, so it's pretty good.
No, you did. You did very, very unbelievably successful. Like again, you achieved a huge amount in a short space of time. Now, obviously, Americans were obsessed with calling area codes and whatnot, so that probably kind of fit like a glove over there. They're all banging on about different area and regions of America, that's 619 or whatever. I don't
Correct.
understand. I don't understand the obsession with phone codes, but anyway, each their own. But like when you came in, you were thrown right into kind of the Dusty Classic. You get into that Dusty
Yeah.
Classic final and get into a wrestle in the final of that in Toronto, the packed arena, like the whole
Yeah.
world is watching. What did that feel like? It was a huge kind of moment of fulfillment where you're thinking like this is the moment that we're going to be taken off from here, or what was going through your mind at that stage?
Like, I mean, yeah, that's obviously I don't know if that was it's probably the big, I don't know, the highlight of where we're at, our careers by
Yeah,
then. So, like, but at the time, you're still trying to process everything and you're trying to think what you have to do and don't do that, so I don't know. In my head, I kind of like plan it out. So there's to the ring, you get to the and and you don't have enough time to even get too far ahead of yourself to even
Yeah.
take it all in. Which I mean, you still you're doing that. I look at pictures and stuff now. And there's some great pictures from it. You just like it kind of brings you back when you look at the pictures of it, and just to do that with Shane and just like, and the referee that was the ref in that match is one of my good friends in Boston. Like, it was cool to just do that with everyone. It
Brilliant.
was like, yeah, it was a good thing.
Off the back of that, did you have any expectations? Okay, we've made it into this so far. By next year, where we hope to make it into the main roster, or we've got because you're in the middle of a division where you're like working with the AOP, the Revival, DIY, and whatnot.
Yeah,
You're like really at a high point where you guys in that division were reimagining and reestablishing in the mind of fans what tag team wrestling could be. And like I'm obsessed with tag team wrestling. I think it's its own most unique art form when done right. I think there's nothing in
yeah,
wrestling that can be done equally as well. It's the closest thing you'll find in wrestling to watching like a team sport. Like obviously you can relate to be it AFL or rugby league or whatever in Australia. It's the
yeah.
same as kind of here. Um, what's it? What was that like at that stage? Were you conscious you were being part of, I suppose, that kind of revival or whatever at that stage of Thai team as a genre as much as anything?
Yeah, I mean, because when like the year or so, let's say 12 months before we got there was when it really started to like really, they started doing the what do they call them, the takeovers, the bigger things, and it was all
Yeah,
kind of come together. So even to come in on that, it was like we kind of got as it was at the peak, as it was on the way up. So it was just cool to be around all that and people actually caring about tag wrestling, which is always always blows my mind because it's one of those things that yeah, if you like it, you like it, and if you like you don't understand it, you don't get it, then you just don't like it. But like that's what I found with tag wrestling. There's so much different nuances and whatever else you can add to it and stuff. Like I find myself doing that when I go to training and stuff. People talk about tag matches,
yeah,
and I'll just find myself talking for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I actually know what I'm talking. Like, I was like, ooh, I don't know where that came from. But
yeah,
like with the NXT, it was just cool to be a part of all that. And also with the Authors of Pain, they weren't they were kind of green coming into it, so like,
yeah,
and they're great guys anyway. So it was cool to like help them sort of, as
yeah.
the point of whatever rest, all that stuff anyway. So it was cool to be a part of that as well.
No, listen, you're incredibly successful at that point as well. And I suppose like obviously that what seemed to scupper your momentum optically as a fan watching from a far side of the world was Shane getting injured. Like, how was that to deal with?
Yeah,
Like, because you're working, you're not just working, I suppose. You're working in a very closed environment within the performance center. You're kind of training there on a daily basis. You're probably doing the
yeah,
Florida different loops internally within the state. And
yeah,
Florida is probably a strange place at the best of times. But how was that time, or like you
yeah.
kind of what was going on? Like you're in this closed environment, or it's probably everything you do is probably under a microscope, be it training
Yeah.
wise, in matches, on shows, to that effect. What was that time like?
Well, it was like because when Shane, because this was the second time he did his knee. The
Yeah.
first time he did it was like when we were in Japan. So he actually did the WWE tryout with a busted up knee. So,
Okay.
and then so I had about 6 months in Japan. Last 6 months or so I was there. It was just
Yeah.
me. Like Shane wasn't there, so kind of used to that. Kind of,
Yeah.
other people. And then it happened in NXT, and it was just like the worst possible time it could possibly be. But it didn't work out. Funnily enough, it didn't work out too bad because I tore something in my thumb around the
Okay.
same time. And then we went back to Australia and I got married while we were home. And then we came back to, yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Then we came
Congratulations. Yeah.
back to, we came back to Florida. And then I had about, I thought it was only going to be like 6 weeks, but it ended up being about 12 weeks with this. So we had
Mm.
what I thought would just be me doing stuff by myself. It ended up just me and Shane sitting on the couch and, like, because worst but best possible timing. We both got hurt at the same time,
Yeah.
But as far as it just the momentum, it was just like it came to a screeching halt. You can almost hear it. You can almost hear the brakes going on it,
Yeah.
as it happened. I remember being out there when he did it as well, and I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
because you can kind of tell by his face whether he's actually done something or not. You're
Yeah.
around someone so much, you get to know the,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like it was not ideal, I don't think. For like, I think we're on a pretty good
Yeah.
trajectory with how we're going. So
Yeah.
it was just
You
like,
were. Yeah. You.
yeah, it was the worst possible timing.
I think.
But
I
I
think
mean,
WWE was in a funny space that stage where they seem to be bringing in a shiny new toy every week. Where it seemed to be like
yeah,
just their
yeah,
attention span, but like you felt as a fan if you're into say you're following you guys in TM61 the rebranding as the Mighty,
yeah,
you didn't feel rewarded for what's the next? It's always what's the next. And it's more a reflection of modern society, constant different attention spans and whatnot. But like, I mean,
Yeah, sure
yeah, like
thing.
that. But I mean, not too long after that, you did actually you did something incredibly brave, and probably not 99% of people on the planet wouldn't have the guts
Yeah,
to kind of actually ask for their own personal release from WWE. Like, so you chase a dream for so long, and then you say, no, hold on, this isn't for me. That's an incredibly
yeah.
powerful thing to do. So how did you come about to that point?
Well, for the ever since I was whatever, 15, 16, I decided I was going to be a wrestler. It was like,
Yeah,
nothing was going to stop, nothing was going to stand in my way. It's like in that movie Heat, when it's like, don't get attached to anything, can't walk away in 30 seconds flat. I was like, that was how I lived my life for whatever, 15, whatever years. And then, funnily enough, I have a tiny little baby girl,
yeah,
and you hold her here, and you're like, oh boy, this is, and the plan all along was she was like, my wife was going to have the baby, and, come here, I get home as often as I can, and we try and kind of juggle it up.
yeah,
But as soon as I came back, and then I was like, I had to leave 2 weeks after to get back to work, and I was
yeah,
like, I remember just holding it. I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work. So I stuck it out as long as I could, and it actually worked out.
mhm,
Like if COVID hadn't come along, I think it would have worked out even better. But
yeah,
just because it's funny in wrestling, the people you meet along the way, you don't think you're going to I mean, you hope whatever, but then
mm,
because I'd known what's his name Finn Balor,
mm,
known him for ages. I met him when I first went to LA Dojo in 2005. So like
yeah,
he was there then. Carl Anderson was there, and then like I remember like when I was I just gave him a call, and then Rocky gave me a call, and then within like 3 or 4 weeks, I got home just after Christmas, and then within the week of the New Year, I was back in Japan doing that. So like
yeah,
it's funny how like you don't. It's the kind of industry where you don't anticipate it, but then the people that you meet, and then it's like like people helping people. I think it's like it kind of works out in the end. So like I wouldn't have thought it would have worked out as well as it did, really.
yeah.
Because it's scary to walk away from. You have salary and guaranteed money every week. You don't have to think about it, and then say, all right, cool, see you later.
No, I
Just
can.
roll the dice and see what happens.
No, I suppose like it's an incredibly brave thing to do. Like people, I suppose performative arts can be kind of a selfish endeavor, but to have the context and seeing like, no, my family and my children are more important to me than rather than being stuck and isolated here in Florida. So fair play, that's a really, really worthy, incredible thing to do. So, but did it take you long, I suppose, after you've left the WWE bubble, did it take you long to kind of find Mikey Nicholls again? Because I know being in the WWE scene, you hear these different stories of people's confidence can be dragged down because you're under a
Oh yeah,
microscope and you're
yeah,
expected to be in a certain
yeah,
bucket or under a certain label. Did it take you long to find
yeah.
yourself, the rest of the performer and everything again after that?
I thought it would.
Yeah.
Like I really did, just because it's like you're saying, like
Mm.
the self confidence, and you're thinking about everything you're doing, and you're kind of taking yourself out of the
Yeah.
actual art form and you're doing it. But then I remember my first match in Japan and came backstage, and I was like just waiting for someone to tell me everything I'm doing wrong. It's just kind of the atmosphere there, and then
Yeah.
came back and get it like that was great. I'm like, oh, you what? It was just like, and that was like an instantaneous like a switch went. Then I was like, oh, so flashback to what I
Yeah.
when I was years and years before. The whole point is like it's an expression of like especially spontaneous and like it's just, so then that all comes back into it, and it was just slowly bringing all that back in. But I think it was and because I was kind of forced to do single stuff as well, which I hadn't done for a long time.
Yeah.
So I mean you're challenging yourself as well at the same time. So yeah, it was cool. And I got back into it quicker than what I thought I would. I thought it would have taken me much longer to trying to get momentum and stuff again. But I thought it was pretty good. And then I think it was my first tour, and then I think it was the New Japan Cup, and I had it was Okada one of the matches, and I was like, oh, okay, I was like, oh, I remember I can actually wrestle. Okay, like that's nothing on me. That's definitely on him because he's he's the best wrestler I've ever been in the ring with. So I would thank him for giving my confidence back. So but I'll take all the I'll say it's me that did it, but it's 100% not. But
No.
it's just they're getting forced out of my comfort zone. I think that's the big thing. Because tag wrestling as well now, it's still hard and stuff, but you have your realize that from doing it for however long, we do, yeah, how many matches in a year, tag matches. You do a tour and it's 17 matches in 19 days, then you have 3 days off and you go back for another two. It just becomes like second nature. Just you've got your stuff and you know how to do it, and then trying to completely change that and basically take 50% of your entire 50% of your whole thing out and trying to make up for it somehow.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think the idea of getting forced into it, I think it helped me a lot.
Brilliant. No, I mean, again, you kind of touched on there. You kind of came back to New Japan almost seamlessly overnight, quite quietly. Not a huge amount of fanfare, but you kind of fit like a
Yeah,
glove. Felt like, even though you've been in Noah before, it felt like the work you were doing going straight back into eventually working with TMDK and those guys. It felt really
yeah,
really cool. And then I suppose you touched on it there when you're in the New Japan Cup, when you're getting to face Okada, you're getting to tag with Okada
yeah,
later on. Was there
yeah,
was there a feeling of validation in terms of, I've stepped away from something, I'm doing something that actually suits me. This is actually far more up my street, and these people validate and respect what I bring as a performer and as a wrestler more than anything. Was there a huge was there a sense of gratification or validation in that?
yeah. You definitely kind of forget
Mm,
the such different uh, the way people kind of view wrestling in Japan as opposed to
mm,
America. It's two completely different things. None's better, no, not one's better than the other, but it's just you've got completely different things. And the way we
mm,
we, we kind of came up in Japan, because the way we started in Noah was sort of like me, Shannon, and Zach just started all at the bottom, and it was like a slow sort of thing. So the people get behind you, you're doing that, and you kind of create your own thing. And there's a bit more. No, I don't want to say respect, but it's a bit more of a acknowledge sort of
yeah.
the physicality and the struggle and all that thing behind it. And I think it was weird going from not having that from having that for whatever it was 5 6 years, and then not having it for a couple of years, and then coming back, and it's kind of like you forget what it was like, and then you have to try to get back into that way of thinking and stuff. But that was like Japan's like it's the crowds are, and even the style of wrestling and stuff. Like
Yeah.
once you get back into it and you realize it, and it's just like it's a whole different.
Mm,
It takes a whole different meaning to like the whole the art form behind whatever wrestling, what wrestling is. So like they gives you a chance to be more creative
mm,
in storytelling wise. I think.
yeah.
So,
No, from an onlooker, I almost equate it to the difference between watching like a heavyweight boxing competition where fans are sitting down actively watching blow by blow
yeah,
versus, I don't know if I have it in the straight. Pantomime we have in this part of the Christmas, you
yeah,
kind of, yeah, it's
yeah,
that kind of like the kind of it's
yeah,
behind you kind of thing. That's in this part of the world you'd have.
yeah.
That's the kind of difference between the kind of chalk and cheese. But people
Yeah, it's
don't
true.
talk about Japan. They do have that the respect, the fight, the silence, the struggle, and
Yeah,
Japan probably gave you something that WWE couldn't to that stage. But just as we're talking about kind of wrestling philosophically, um,
yeah,
you personally, Mikey Nicholls, people talk about like wrestling can be anything they want, and again,
yeah,
I think that's a more of a detriment to wrestling than anything. As a personal view, I think there are, particularly tag team wrestling, it should be a fight, it should be a struggle, it should be a contest between two against two. Like, what do you think wrestling is supposed to be in your lens or to your taste? Not that it's 100% that is what it is, but what's your opinion?
yeah. It's it's any fight in the Rocky movies.
Yeah,
So it's someone, if whoever is going to be your baby face or your good guy, they're going to get beaten down, but they're not going to stop, and they're going to keep coming back. They're not, like it's the easiest way that I always say to anyone
mm,
to look at if you wanted like
mm,
storytelling and whatever you want, in the match. Just watch any fight from Rocky. Like
yeah,
and even especially the first one because he didn't care if he won. He just wanted to go the distance. That's the whole.
mm, yeah,
That's I don't know how to explain it. That's the easiest way that I can ever explain it to anyone. Like it's like people know that it's not like you have to
yeah,
give them a reason to suspend your disbelief. You have to give them a reason to believe, to get sucked
yeah,
into it. And that's the easiest way to get sucked into it is just like to put that kind of emotion and struggle and everything behind it. But that's the easiest way that whenever anyone asks me, that's my answer every time.
yeah.
And then people try to ask, they're like, "How can you like? What do you mean by that?" And I was like, "Just go and watch the fucking movie, and you'll see.
Mm.
just watch the movie, and you'll understand what I mean." But
Yeah,
that's what I think as well. And it's go ahead, sorry.
no, so I was going to say, like, I 100% agree. Like, I love wrestling, but I'm not, no, so I'm not, I'm at a stage, I'm 33. I feel like I'm at 53, but I feel like I don't really care about wrestling watching for. I don't necessarily want to be wowed. I want to care, and I think tag team wrestling can do
Yeah,
that
that's what I think.
in a medium where you feel that struggle. You feel like your team, that kind of banner, your
Yeah,
guys. That's what tag team wrestling can offer. And I think what you yourself and Shane through TMDK, through Noah, Japan, WWE, NXT, you've been consistently able to do that throughout your career, and I'm hugely appreciative of all the work that you have done.
thank you.
I know you've touched on kind of you haven't been on New Japan, you've been working kind of locally within Australia the last
Yeah,
6 months, but again, world and economic conditions obviously play a factor in a huge amount of these things. But in
yeah.
terms of like what kind of goals on the horizons do you have as a performer? Are you looking to do more independent things across Europe, across America, or where are you looking to plant your flag next?
Well, funnily enough, me and Shane we did the New Japan stuff in the UK
Yeah.
whatever it was last year. I was there for like I think I was there for 2 days,
Yeah.
and it's the first time that me and Shane had ever been there, like for wrestling, which is kind of weird because it just
Yeah.
kind of never worked
Yeah.
out that way. But yeah, it was just funny to finally get to wrestle there, and then like I was there, had a match, and then back to the airport. But that week was pretty fun. I did 3 countries in a week, I think that week. So I went like Japan, Perth, UK, I think UK, Perth, and then back to Boston, and then back again, and like it was crazy that week, but it was cool. But
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get back there. I think that's because that's been like the hotbed of wrestling for
Mm.
independent,
Yeah.
forever. For as far as ever since I was getting the old Power Slam magazines from the news agency down the road.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Power Slam magazines?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were,
I expect
they were my
monthly here. Yeah.
favorite. I always had the best pictures in them. Oh man, the Power Slam magazines are the best. But I definitely want to get back there because like it's just and it's kind of similar to what you get in Australia as far as crowd wise and even like culturally and stuff. So
Yeah.
like the wrestling wise you do it translates easier between you can be an idiot and people do stupid shit and people get into it. But I
Yeah.
definitely get back there and I think it's also I want to with me and Shane we won like the IWGP tag belt last year.
Mm.
Like that's um, one of the biggest things like that we've done, and it kind of just came about, and then I don't know. It was like when we won the GHC belts, that was like a whole the no ones. That was like a
Mm.
whole. You could see it coming. It was like a whole thing, and it was
Yeah.
building. But and then we had the strong belts for a bit, and then we lost, and we won them back, and then we won. And it was just like we did it in the span of like a month or whatever. And
Yeah.
you never had a second to sit down and be like, oh, so we just did this thing that we wanted to do for a decade,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's and then it's surreal as well. So I remember like with that trip where I went to the UK and then to Boston and stuff, I had the 2 belts and I have to carry them around myself, and so
Yeah.
I'm only going for 2 days to have a carry on, and then there's always like a weight limit, and so I have to like carry one, or like, and someone's gonna be like, "What's in your bag?" And I'm like, "It's a championship," and then they're gonna take it out and take a picture, and I was like, it's just like, and that's just what I remember from it, not not necessarily the achievement of actually doing it. It's like everything, the ridiculous things that go along with it. But
Yeah.
I think that's another one. I want to have a really long. I want to have a long reign with the tag with the IWGP belts because I honestly think that me and Shane the best team in the world. But I don't think we've ever had a bad match with anyone, to be honest. But
Yeah.
like I just want to be given that and just just kind of bring it back around, tag
Yeah.
wrestling back around. Like
Yeah.
you look back on some of the stuff, even with like Noah, and this was a while ago now, but the some of the matches we had there, we didn't have that like I don't know, I just look back on them now as the best sort of the most creative time of my
Mm.
career, especially the year or so that we wrestled Sugiura and Tanaka every big show. We had like 5, I think it was like 4 or 5 tag matches with him.
Yeah.
That's the like most. That was my creative peak as a as an artist,
Yeah.
in wrestling wise. And so like, I'm desperate to get back to that kind of get back to that kind of way of thinking where it's like you've got this, you have to up yourself, so you think of what you
Mm.
did and you try and couple. I want to get the momentum of doing that, and I think as the champions or at least directly chasing the belts, I think you see the opportunity to do that because there's instant emotion put into it straight
Yeah.
away. So everything you do means more if you're the champions and or if you're the guy, the
Mm.
team chasing that. So I'd like to be either of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I need to get back wrestling more because hopefully it's like riding a bike and you
Mm.
you never forget how to do it. But I go into training every now and then, and I'll hit the ropes and take a bump, and I was like, hey, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, how did I do this for 20 odd years? Good
Yeah.
lord.
Yeah. But I mean, again, like you touched on there, the New Japan titles have got such held in such esteem, prestige, and of the last couple of years to see so many different tag teams being kind of cobbled together of singles competitors without having that kind of unique chemistry of being a unique team as yourself and Shane have been. So like, I was incredibly excited last year when you see yourself and Shane holding the IWGP tag
Yeah.
team titles. Like I'll be speaking with. On this show, I'll be speaking with Andy Quilden, the promoter of Rev Pro in the UK. He does a huge event
All right.
with like New Japan with the Fantastic Mania. They obviously got the Door shows
Yeah.
coming up in the UK as well. So I think yourself and Shane would be a huge and incredible landing spot for that. Progress Wrestling, Lee McAteer will be speaking with him in the coming weeks as well.
Yeah.
So I will 100% be
Oh,
championing
okay.
the cause of TMDK should they ever should ever rise.
Putting a good work. Putting a
Yes,
good work.
whatever minimal sway I have, I will try my best. But no, 100%. I would absolutely love to see the pair of you over in these shores, be it Ireland, the UK, or further afield. I think there's so much ample opportunity within New Japan for an actual revitalized tag team division, particularly given there's so many different new talents emerging across various different divisions within the company. I
Yeah.
think yourself and Shane have a huge opportunity there, should you be given the appropriate platform or being allowed to get the
I would
appropriate
hope.
platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
we kind of did. It was like, kind of like we were, it was thrust on us pretty quickly, but then it was like, oh, so we're like the top guy. You either
yeah.
you got to a point where you come into the company and you win the old thing, you win the titles your first time there and then lose
Yeah.
them and the last
Yeah.
thing of the tour. You either do that or it takes you 5 years to get there. And we kind of fit somewhere right in the middle, right
Yeah.
in the middle where it was like, we can put us against anyone, have a good match, and then or if you want,
Yeah.
make us the champ, do that, or if you want us to be the the people that make the champs look good, that's
Yeah.
fine, that's,
Well, there doesn't seem to be any obvious kind of appearing on the horizon aside from within domestically within New Japan as an out and out tag team. So I'm very much hopeful that you guys will be given that opportunity in the future. Just one closing question, Mikey. I really appreciate your time.
sure.
Just something a very philosophical, off the wall question here now. So if you could
All
look
right,
back,
I'm ready for
yeah,
it.
yeah, there's something a bit weird and existential now. But if you're looking back 20 odd years, kind of your wrestling career, if you could
Yeah.
chat to a younger version of yourself when you're just starting to wrestling back working out back in Perth back in the early 2000s just lacing up your boots for the first time, what would you tell that version of Mikey Nicholls now?
I want to say tell him to stop being so angry, but then I think that maybe that was the reason that that little angry Mikey Nicholls turned into the somewhat well-adjusted middle-aged father of two Mikey Nicholls he is now. But I reckon I tell him to have more fun,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because especially those first few years, it was very I was very sort of this you go through your trauma, your tragedy, trauma, and then you channel that all in, and it was just like this, bang, 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 and there was nothing either side. So I feel like at least, for until I was about early 20s or so, it was just like
Yeah.
I only wanted one thing. So I would say, I'd say like just chill, like you're on the right path, like just stick with what you're doing, but like don't don't neglect like being a human being, and
Yeah.
because funnily enough, you just keep going in one direction
Mm.
and somehow everything works out,
Yeah, it does. It does.
So,
I mean, you hear many people across various different kind of fields of sports talking about like enjoying the present, enjoying the journey, all that kind of more. But at the
yeah,
same time, would you achieve the same level of success without having that focus? You often
yeah,
see
exactly.
high
So,
performers of the same kind of quandary back and forth. But if you look at things on paper, Mike, I
yeah,
mean, in terms of you've achieved all your dreams, you get into WWE, being flown over there, flying the flag for
yeah,
Australians, lighting Japan a light with the GHC as part with alongside your friend Shane
yeah,
Hayes, and obviously then you've created a brand TMDK that's been flourishing for nearly
yeah. I
20 years
know.
now. So I mean, again, this
That's
huge amount,
crazy.
achieved a huge amount. Plus, you've got a young family in Australia, living in Western Australia, having lived your dream. So I think you've achieved more than 99% of the population of the
Well,
planet
thank
probably
you.
achieves. So congratulations, my friend.
Well, thank you. The good thing about Team DK as well is when me and Shane like because we were like everything's much more fun with your friends. Because we try and do this thing by ourselves, then we're like, why don't you just do it together?
Yeah,
Then you end up. We bought a car and drove across America a couple of times, and then I don't have the car, and then we end up in Japan, and then like we
yeah,
meet Zach, and then for some reason we become best friends, and then he's the best wrestler in the world, and then
yeah,
just it's the whole point was you for a very egotistical kind of like backstabbing kind of industry at its worst. Like we try and make it so like you help someone when you can, like and I think we've carried with like that's kept going as well, especially now where we're at now. Like your picture of Zach, like I was like something like so good, like just stop, like
Yeah,
and just watching him like last year it worked out really well because I was there for the G1 final when he won that, and then I was there for the one
yeah,
when he won the belt as well when he
yeah.
that whole thing and like and he's one of my favorite people in the world and like just to watch all that happen it was I don't know. It was the thing where like there's for a very egotistical kind of like
Mm,
business and everything like that. It was like yeah, at that moment I was like I was like almost enjoying it as much as him just because it's my friend
mm,
and watching my friend do this. And I think it stems from what me and Shane started back when I was 7, 9. Like
yeah,
just have fun, hang out with your friends, and then
yeah.
help them when you can. Yeah. And so that's like I think it's a good thing that we've the team became. And honestly, I think that's why it's like lasted for so like why it's kind of
Mm,
endeared for so long because as much as we take ourselves, as much as it's serious, we also like don't take ourselves that,
yeah,
like it's like especially with like me and Shane, like I remember lived like no more than like a foot away from him for like 10 years, like
yeah,
and then it's just you get your little back and forth, and then one thing leads to another, and you get someone else in, and that leads to something else, and then and then you just
yeah,
keep going. Now we have TMDK tracksuits, which is the
yeah.
which is the greatest thing ever. I know, and I haven't been because I haven't been to Japan since they got all this new stuff. So when I do go back there, I'm gonna have to bring an extra bag to put the TMDK tracksuit and the jackets and the
Yeah, yeah.
everything else we've got. But I think the Under Armour TMDK stuff is like that's like I'm like well I'm my life's complete now.
That's
I
awesome.
haven't
Yeah,
I have an Under Armour backpack with the like a TMDK brand of that, and I'm like well I'm good.
that's incredible.
I can retire. I can retire now. I'm good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. But even like that
Yeah.
mainstream attraction for something you've created, that's an incredible achievement. Even looking at Zach, like obviously a two-time IWGP champion. Now you look at Shane, he's living the dream, living in California with family
I
as
know,
well.
right?
And then you've got young kids in Australia. So like I think things have worked out very,
Yeah.
very, very well for all of you. And sometimes things do work out for good people as well. Not everything happens to those who are
Yeah,
selfish as well.
it's funny if you're looking back on it because for the amount of years that we lived in the the Noah dojo, which is like we lived in basically a basement under the
Yeah.
the three of us like that far away from each other, and now like we're on opposite sides of the world. Yet at least last year, every like week was you still end up seeing your friends even the outside of the world.
Yeah.
It's just like that's like a good thing about Japan as well. I think it's just like it's like nowhere else that's what it's like. Like so I can go there and be Mikey Nicholls for 2 weeks or whatever, and then come home and then just be dad like
Yeah.
that. For 3 weeks, and there's that like the difference. I think that's what helps the mentally as well to keep you going because you can't be
Yeah.
for years. I was Mikey Nicholls 24/7, like
Yeah.
blah, 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 and then like just relax and so you can toss up between the two and it just at least
Yeah.
it makes things more interesting if nothing else.
It grounds you more than anything, just in terms of Japan. Again,
Yeah,
wrestling is obviously the biggest thing in the world, but it's a small country in itself, so it must feel like a bit of a goldfish bowl.
yeah.
So to have that kind of balance, be able to go home to your family, stay grounded, to have your young children to bring you back. Like this is actually what's important, rather than chasing some dream play acting around America. So
Yeah, that's fun. Having said that, when me and Shane won the IWGP tag belt, so like I finally got home and I was I was chuffed almost, two belts, one on each show, come back in and I was like, what's up? And I told my wife and she was like, oh, cool, that like go pick up the horse shit, like
yeah, yeah,
go feed the alpaca. I was like, but I've got like I'm like
yeah,
best tag team in the no, she's like that's cool, like go just go do your thing. I just it grounds you and it's like I mean you got to look at it like wrestling's like this whole obscure weird world thing. If you let yourself get too
yeah,
too into it, that's when you go a little
yeah.
crazy.
It's
That's where the wrestling crazy comes from.
like I wrestled briefly in Ireland after playing rugby for a number of years, and even within Ireland, it's a strange little goldfish bowl, kind of removed from reality in
Yeah,
certain aspects. And you might think you're a big man on a scene, but at the end of the day, you
yeah,
might be
that's
working.
what, yeah,
You're working in a shop just down the road Monday to Friday. So I mean, we're all
that's a weird, yeah,
everybody's human. Everybody
it's a
treats you
weird thing. Yeah,
treat people well, treat people equally, and things will come back to you and treat you well. So, Mikey,
yeah,
I'm
I think, yeah, that's the way. Yeah,
Mikey, I'm hugely appreciative of your time. I know it's the middle of the
Oh,
night there
no
over in Australia.
problem.
You're an absolute gentleman. I'm thoroughly excited
Oh,
to see
thank
what's
you.
in the right. I'm really hoping you get back over to Japan shores, and hopefully this summer with the amount of UK events, particularly related to New Japan, I'm hoping yourself and Shane can get tied in with that. Where can people
Yeah,
find you on
it was
social
good.
medias?
I'm at Mikey Nicholls everywhere. So
Brilliant.
Instagram, what is it, Instagram, Twitter, not the X, Twitter, I don't know what do you call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whatever. It's all at Mikey Nicholls everywhere, which is pretty cool. They end up getting that. So,
That's
which is a whole
excellent.
nother thing when I left WWE and they made me sign it off, and then yeah, it was the whole thing. But you know,
Okay.
let's just say I got the Instagram and the amount of people on my speed dial. So
Okay, very good.
just hit
Okay,
up
that's
the just hit up the social media guy from WWE, and he was like, "Yeah, I got it." He goes, you know, like, but
brilliant.
yes, yeah, I've got them though. So that Mikey Nichols everywhere. So
Brilliant. It
hit me
pays
up.
it pays to
Oh,
know people in high places anyway. So, Mikey, what I'll
I
do is
know, right?
over the coming days, there'll be a number of different shorts and stories coming out from this interview. And I'm
Sure, man.
hugely appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much, and I hope you have a wonderful
No
summer
problem, man.
or winter in your part of the
Thanks,
world.
dude.
Take care. All the
It's
very best.
cold as yeah. Thank you. See
All
you,
right.
man.